Episode 14 of Twin Peaks is all about things that you should know, with an underlying hint of things you should know to complete your purpose. One of the places we see this best is in the FBI office in Las Vegas with Randall and Wilson. Randall questioning Wilson, why don't you know what you should know about our purpose? Rather than go through all the different places we could see the theme in episode 14, I want to go through all the things that we should know to complete our purpose of figuring out what the hell is going on in Twin Peaks.
Hey, I'm G, and this is the G-Spot.
Sara has something evil inside of her. We don't know exactly what it is, but we can guess that it's probably either the experiment, the alien bug from episode 8, or something else altogether. One thing we do know about Sara is we have recently seen her in the market, and then we saw her at the bar. And there is a big change when we see Sara in the market. She is scared and fragile. But when we see her in the bar, she is confident and deadly. And this would lead us to believe that what's inside Sara has recently just entered her, meaning that it's probably the experiment or something else. However, there is the possibility that Sara is the girl from episode 8, that this alien bug is inside her, and it has just remained dormant up until a few days ago. But either way, we can be assured there is something evil inside Sara. We are not watching multiple timelines. Seeing Frank and Cole talk on the phone confirmed to us that all of these storylines are going to come together at a point. It also confirmed that they are showing us scenes out of order, but this is of no consequence to the storyline. It's just a matter of style. This does, however, still leave the possibility of time quakes and multiple timelines in Twin Peaks. We have officially seen the White Lodge. This can be confirmed by the hole on the ground that matches the Black Lodge's hole except with its alternate color. And inside, we were finally officially introduced to the Fireman. Now, the Fireman had a message for Andy. A lot of this message consisted of the information we received in episode 8, but it did have a bit more to it. It tells us that Naito is the replacement for Laura. He's then shown himself taking care of Naito, which is now Andy's purpose. It's the Fireman letting him know what he has to do right now. He's also shown a vision of the future between him and Lucy, giving him a hint as to what to do when this future scenario arrives. And he's given a bit of a warning when he's shown the telephone pole with the number 6. We finally have a connection for this wedding ring that was in Briggs's stomach. Knowing that Janie E and Diane are half-sisters, we can imagine that the wedding ring was placed in Briggs's stomach by the one-armed man. He did this knowing that Diane is connected to Janie E and connected to the FBI. Knowing that once Diane saw or heard the inscription on the ring, she would be able to connect it to her sister and lead the FBI to Cooper. Now, this may seem like a lot for the one-armed man to orchestrate, but we have a lot of evidence that he does things like this. So far, we've seen the one-armed man orchestrate it, so Dougie uncovers insurance fraud in the Lucky 7 insurance company office. And we also saw the one-armed man orchestrate the whole cherry pie dream with the Mitchums and Cooper. Seeing that he's already done these two things, which involve real-world events, knowledge of the real world, and him interfering with all this, there's no reason not to believe that the one-armed man put the ring in Agent Briggs's stomach in order to lead the FBI to Cooper. Because the one-armed man has been spending all his time trying to help Cooper since something went wrong in the Black Lodge from the first episode. The blue rose is a tulpa, or something that does not exist naturally. A tulpa is a being that is created from the thoughts of separate individuals. An example of a tulpa is Dougie Jones. Dougie Jones was, as the one-armed man tells us, manufactured for a purpose. We know that Doppelganger Cooper was involved in the manufacturing of Dougie. He's the one who had a purpose for Dougie. But a tulpa is created through thoughts of separate individuals. So who helped Doppelganger Cooper create Dougie Jones? When I ask myself that question, there's really only one person that comes to mind, and that is Beulah. Beulah looks a lot like a witch. And if we look at the shot of Beulah, there is a broom behind her, and the jar in front of her is a jar of pickled thumbs. This whole scene with Beulah and Otis, it was always very strange. It had a strange feeling to it. And the whole process that they go through is strange. When we look at exactly what happened when Cooper shows up there, he walks in and requests people. And then Ray and Daria seem to appear from nowhere. While we're on the topic of Dougie being a tulpa, I want to take a moment and clarify exactly what's been going on with all of Cooper's characters. So we'll start with Dougie Jones, who is a tulpa. Then we have Doppelganger Cooper. Doppelganger Cooper is a doppelganger. He is not a tulpa because tulpas do not exist naturally. Doppelgangers do exist naturally in the world of Twin Peaks. Lastly, we have Cooper. Now, I have said basically this whole season, Cooper is inside of Dougie. Cooper needs to come out of Dougie. But this is actually incorrect. Cooper is not inside of Dougie. Dougie went into the Black Lodge and then disappeared. So the tulpa that was made for Cooper is gone. This is Cooper being mistaken for Dougie. Megan is Tina's daughter, and Megan and Tina were the last people to see Billy, plus maybe their uncle. One thing that really struck me odd about this scene is the ominous music that is played when Tina's name is mentioned. It felt like the whole town was going to be sucked into a black hole at that exact moment. Now, we've heard Tina's name before from Audrey, and we do know that Audrey does not like Tina. Now we find out that Tina, like Audrey, is romantically involved with Billy, giving us a good idea as to why Audrey dislikes Tina so much. What we can be sure about at this point is that Audrey is interacting with the current events in the town of Twin Peaks. She knows that Billy is currently missing. She's dating Billy. She dislikes Tina because Tina is also involved with Billy. All of this information lets us know that Audrey is not asleep right now. She is involved in the current events of Twin Peaks. Now, there is also the mention of a nut house during this conversation, and I would give that some attention, except for the fact that we have seen 3 different conversations in the Bang Bang Bar, like this conversation. 2 women sitting in a booth and talking. All 3 of these conversations have been absolutely nutty. They all have something really crazy about the conversation. Freddie has a hand that is like an enormous pile driver. It was given to him by the fireman, and he was told to go to Twin Peaks after he got it. Freddie and his hand have a very specific purpose waiting for them. After the scene in the White Lodge, we see how confident Andy is, but we also see how confused Hawk, Bobby, and Frank are. Now, at first when I saw this scene, it seemed like Hawk, Bobby, and Frank were just traveling through the 5th dimension. Maybe they were just moved from the hole in the ground back to Jack Rabbit's palace. Maybe they were moved through the 5th dimension is what I was thinking. But as I looked closer at the scene, there's actually we actually see multiples of each person, and they're coming from different directions. It's hard to see. I really couldn't get a good screenshot of it. But we see more than one Hawk, we see more than one Bobby, and we see more than one Frank. And not only do we see more of them, but they're not in a trail, in a line. They're literally coming from different directions. I honestly have no idea what happened to them or where they're coming from. And either do they. But they do realize that something happened. They're just not sure as to what it is. Whether or not this will become significant or we'll even find out what happened to them, is hard to say. This may be completely insignificant and never mentioned again. This scene also was a bit nutty. What I see in this scene, what stands out to me, is the drunk mimicking Naito. And I believe Naito is trying to tell us something we need to know, but we can't understand her. And it's probably something important. But the scene does kind of play out a little bit like a nut house, and it does focus on the drunk in the cell imitating her. The way it is presented, especially once we see the drunk bleeding from the mouth, it does lead one to question, is this drunk Billy? But I think it's very unlikely that the drunk is Billy. For one, Billy was bleeding from the nose and mouth, and we see that the drunk is only bleeding from the mouth. Also, we know that Billy is missing, and the drunk is right there, so he's not missing. So it is very unlikely that the drunk is Billy. I did not forget about the Monica Bellucci dream. I will be covering that in an upcoming video. There was so much to cover from this episode, I didn't want to do it in one video. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.